is respiratory medicine or pulmonology. And as we all know, there are about a billion plus people who have different kinds of respiratory conditions across the world. In India alone, there are about 120 million patients who have some kind of respiratory conditions. And a recurring theme that we understood by talking to many pulmonologists across India is that there aren't enough number of thoracic radiologists who are able to provide an objective diagnosis to many of these conditions, especially ones that are more complex in nature. So the minute you start talking of severe COPD and you have other comorbidities like interstitial lung diseases, the diagnosis is very hard to come by, takes about 6 months, and the patient typically has to go to multiple sites before they're able to get an accurate diagnosis. And this is primarily because reading thoracic radiologists, this is primarily because the number of thoracic radiologists that are available who have this expertise is just few and far between. And so typically what we see is that multiple pulmonologists are reliant on a single radiologist who has the necessary expertise, and this deteriorates as you go from tier 1 to tier 2, tier 3 cities. What we've built is basically an artificial intelligence based solution that takes in a lung CT and uses deep learning to detect a variety of different conditions. We primarily target 3 broad conditions, which is early detection of lung cancers, assessment of chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, and third, which is what we see as the most notorious, most subjective conditions of them all, is interstitial lung diseases, which are basically fibrotic diseases of the lung. And what our AI does is that it provides accurate quantitative reports for each of these different conditions to the radiologist by seamlessly integrating with the radiologist workflow. It integrates across different CT scanners and across different IT systems. And it's basically been built on about 100,000 patient records that we've accumulated from multiple hospitals across India. Just to give you an idea, we've done studies where we compared the performance of our AI against 3 different radiologists, and what we can see is that AI plus radiologist results in a sensitivity of over 95%, sometimes even reaching 100%, whereas a radiologist alone typically works at a sensitivity of about 85 to 90%. And this is in detecting small subtle lung nodules from lung CT images. So a study here where basically took about 240 studies, gave them to 3 independent radiologists, asked them to mark all the nodules that they saw, and then we gave it to the AI system, asked the AI system to predict all the nodules that it saw, and finally did a comparative analysis on where does the AI show superiority, and how does AI really improve the results of the radiologists themselves, and clearly showing that AI plus radiologist can far outweigh can bring far better results than what a radiologist is capable of producing when he is operating alone. And what we provide as a software, when we sell a product, is not just the software experience that we like to sell. What we primarily end up selling is actually the reports that are generated when you use our software solution. So it's not just the outputs, the AI outputs that the radiologist gets to see, but also the information that's derived as visual maps, as quantitative numbers that are generated and put into these structured report formats for each of the different conditions, and are added as an adjunct to your regular radiology report. So while your regular radiology report will be a text document, which is basically paragraphs and paragraphs of text, this is sort of welcome relief for pulmonologists who see quantitative numbers, can see visualizations, and even the patients themselves can look at these reports and directly understand how bad or what's really happening with their disease, whether it's COPD or fibrosis, and get a quantitative assessment instead of a subjective description of the disease itself, right? And in having to build a workflow which enables you not to just be able to see the AI algorithm, but translate it all the way to a report. What we've built is an end-to-end workflow, which not just integrates with just the imaging side of things, but also the reporting side of things, so that we actually are able to translate the AI processed on imaging all the way up to a structured report that contains all the different findings that is detected by the AI. So this is sort of a first-in-class. It's the first time that we are seeing we believe we're the first ones in the industry to build something like this, which talks to both the reporting system and the imaging system, and integrates AI in the backend to ensure that the reporting process itself is made much faster. What this also helps us is that the radiologist being able to directly interact with the AI results gives us a lot of valuable feedback, which helps us understand what the accuracy of the AI results itself in a real world scenario, helping us go back, improve the algorithms, and cater to the needs of the radiologist much better. Over the last 6 months, we've deployed across 20 sites in India. We're commercial across some of these sites, while some of these sites are still in pilot stages. Over the last 6 months, we've processed about 8,000 patients in India. Some of these sites are very well-known sites in India. One of Tata Memorial Center, for instance, is India's largest cancer hospital. Max Healthcare is one of the top 3 hospital groups in India. And these are some of our pilots and commercial sites that are using our product today. Over the last 3 years, we've published about 15 different papers at various conferences, including the European Congress of Radiology, the Radiology Society of North America. And we've also published peer-reviewed journal papers describing the efficacy of our algorithms in peer-reviewed journal papers. Our team is, we spun out of the Indian Institute of Technology in Madras in 2015, started the company in 2016, and we are advised by Dr. Vimal, who's a leading thoracic radiologist in India, has about 15 years of experience in UK and India in thoracic radiology, and brings the domain expertise for the development of these products. We've raised about $500,000 in seed capital from United Ventures and an angel investor about 1.5 years ago, and we're right now in the process of putting together a $2 million pre-Series A in order to expand our products to markets outside of India, as well as look at markets outside of India, as well as obtain the necessary regulatory approvals. That will be all, and I'm happy to take questions and answer any specific areas that you'd like to get more details on.
Great, thank you. Very interesting. Very interesting technology. The obvious first question for me is: is there a COVID-19 angle here? And can you easily use essentially the same technology to detect the sort of pneumonia that's being seen in COVID patients, or does it require extensive re-engineering?
So we've already launched a COVID-19 version of the product.
Okay.
So as we speak, we are live in Philippines. We've launched it with a district hospital where they're using CT-based screening clubbed with our AI for screening of patients who, before they get an RT-PCR test, you do a CT and our AI detects it. We are right now in talks with a site in Germany to pilot the COVID-19 solution. So we're actually seeing a lot of interest right now for our. So it turns out that a lot of the conditions that we were already quantifying as part of interstitial lung diseases are the same findings that you see for COVID-19. So when COVID-19 hit, we didn't really have to invent anything. We just had to refine the existing algorithms for viral pneumonias, and we could instantly go to market. So we deployed as early as March. We started deploying as early as March, when COVID-19 was just starting to become, as big a large-scale disease as it is today. And we continue to have more conversations. So we are in pipeline. We have 5 hospitals in India right now who we are talking to integrate our COVID-19 solution.
Very good, very good. Quick second question from me. I saw on one of your slides you had data. You've been collecting data from about 8,000 patients. If I recall correctly.
Yes.
So are those paying customers, or those are clinical sites that
So the model that we are right now commercializing is an annual subscription fee. So we don't pay per use. It's right now we intend to go to a pay per use eventually, but our initial go to market, which hospitals are most comfortable in purchasing right now, is an annual subscription fee. So based on the number of CT scanners you have at your site, we will charge you a fixed annual subscription fee.
It's like a SaaS model, essentially.
Yes.
Is there any hardware at all that you provide, or yours is purely the software?
So a lot of sites in India have an aversion to the cloud, and don't want. So the smaller, typically what we've seen is the smaller diagnostic center in the smaller hospital is okay with the cloud-based integration model. But for instance, some of the larger groups that we've deployed, we've actually gone ahead and deployed on-premise servers. So these are typically off-the-shelf, GPU servers, but we've had to do the hardware integration, hardware deployment at these sites as well. So typically it depends on the IT. The larger hospitals do have cloud concerns, so it's required us to be responsible for the hardware as well.
Right. Gabriel.
Yep. Okay. Great to see making tractions, in India and even outside of India, in the Philippines for COVID-19. What's your plan for outside of India?
So right now we're talking to, like I said, we're talking to different partners. So primarily, especially in this COVID situation, I think cracking a new market is a very difficult task because hospitals are not really open to new people walking in. So we're basically latching on to people, to teleradiology players, to cloud PACS providers, and to OEM providers. So we work very deeply, for instance, with GE. And we are looking to integrate our COVID-19 solution directly with the GE workstation, and we're doing a pilot with GE in Europe, in a site in Europe. And so broadly, we are hoping that we will continue to rely on teleradiology partners and OEMs to take us to market till the situation around COVID gets better, because we do not think bringing new hospitals directly will be an option for us.
Yeah. So actually, I was coming to the angle around partnership, and recognizing that your solution is vendor agnostic. And you mentioned that you're working with GE. Are there other vendors that you're working with besides GE?
Right now, we've had conversations with Philips multiple times. We are part of their accelerator program, but it did not eventually materialize in terms of a deep integration. We still do marketing announcements with Philips, saying we're working together. From a deep integration point of view, for instance, within the next 3 months, you would be able to right-click on the GE viewer and open up our application. So it's a very deep integration at a technical level that seamlessly lets you access our solution from within the GE ecosystem. We do not have that level of integration with the other OEMs.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And from the partnership from the provider perspective, other than Max Healthcare, are you working with other providers?
Other than so we work with
Max Healthcare. Yeah.
So we work with pharmaceutical companies too. So we work with a very large generics manufacturer in India who's very big on respiratory medicine. And so what we're seeing, our go-to-market is also quite heavily dependent on pulmonologists understanding the value of our product. And that is increasingly becoming a very strong lever for us to be able to drive adoption. So we are working with a large pharmaceutical company to get access to pulmonologists, multiple pulmonologists across India, where they will sort of take the product and sort of educate the market on the value of these reports. So there is, we are looking at beyond healthcare organizations. We are working with pharmaceutical organizations. Right now it's just limited, but hopefully if we can figure out a scalable model, we will try to do that.
Yeah. So is this solution also applicable to other disease areas outside of lungs?
Yeah. So we have a solution that we just right now piloting with one client for head CT.
Yeah.
So the idea that we're looking towards is to, like I said, right now it's a SaaS product around CT. So we want to scale wider in CT scan itself. So our next product, which is mostly ready, and in the next 1 or 2 months we'll make a public announce, is for head CT. And this is for stroke, for infarcts, for emergency conditions in the head, in the brain. When you come take a CT, we want you to be able to instantly be able to get a diagnosis and be able to plan treatment or plan a surgery for stroke conditions. So as soon as in a time frame as less than 2 months, we will have head CT module also added to our CT suite.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quick question, and maybe you mentioned this, and I possibly have missed it. Your regulatory pathways and regulatory strategy how is this solution classified?
So we are on track to get a CE approval. So in India, we don't. In India, we are certified for commercialization because for AI in healthcare, India has a very low bar for regulatory clearance. We are looking for a European approval, CE mark on the product, and we are in talks with the regulatory approval. We hope to be able to get it somewhere in the 3 to 6 month time frame. For the entire suite of product, we hope to get a CE mark approval. As of today, we are only providing it for research use inside Europe and outside India.
And in the US?
US, we are right now doing market validation. So we're starting to do pilots. Our time frame for getting an FDA approval is Q4 or Q1 of next year. And in the COVID situation, there is a little bit of uncertainty in